Well, welcome to the October 2022 Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium reading, our monthly series. The consortium is an affiliation of poets in the Monterey Bay area and now throughout the country and the world. And we've been presenting readings for many, many years. We carry on a tradition that was established by poets in our area, continued under the auspices of the National Writers Union, the local leader of which was John Lowy, who's on board with us today, and it's the dean and the founder of the consortium. This is our 30th Zoom-based reading. We're well into our third year of getting together via Zoom and connecting now with audiences, not only in the Monterey Bay region, but also around the world, which is a wonderful thing. And this, thank God, is happening all as we've endeavored to find our way through the past 2.5 so years of really significant turmoil and change in the world. The pandemic and its variants, the political and the economic and social issues and discord that we've all been experiencing. It's been a roller coaster ride, I think, fair to say. And I don't think that any of us who are here have experienced anything quite this challenging over the last 2+ years. Perhaps our parents and grandparents in the Depression and World War II had similar challenges, but it's been quite amazing for all of us. So today we have two wonderful poets who help us to forget all of that stuff. And I'd invite you to sit back, enjoy them, and grab a cup of coffee. I see some people have that. Kitty, it's early enough for you to have a glass of wine if you want. And let's just get rolling. The consortium leader is Kent Latham, who's here. And as I said, our founder, John Lowy, is also on board with us today. And as I mentioned too, we do have a YouTube channel that I would urge you to subscribe to. We're on Facebook. And if you haven't gone there, please feel free to do so. We have two outstanding poets with us today, two poet laureates, in fact, which is a wonderful opportunity for us. Danusha Laméris and Prartho Sereno. They're gifted poets, and it's going to be a real treat to hear them. Danusha will read first, and then she'll be followed by Prartho. Each poet will read for 20 to 25 minutes or so. And so I would invite you just to mute your mics and lean back and listen to a wonderful afternoon. Danusha, our first reader, her first book, The Moons of August, was chosen by Naomi Shihab Nye as the winner of the Autumn House Press Poetry Prize. And that book was also a finalist for the Milt Kessler Book Award. Some of Danusha's work has been published in Best American Poetry, New York Times, Onion, the American Poetry Review, the Gettysburg Review, Plowshares, and Prairie Schooner. Her second book, Bonfire Opera, was a finalist for the Patterson Poetry Award and the winner of the Northern California Book Award in Poetry. And as the 2018 to 2020 Poet Laureate of Santa Cruz County, Santa Cruz County, California, she co-founded the Hive Poetry Collective, a radio show, podcast, and event hub. And some of our other readers have been involved with the Hive too. Danusha co-leads the Poetry of Resilience webinars and is on the faculty of Pacific University's low-res MFA program with Ellen Bass, I guess, huh? She involved with that still. Yeah, wonderful. Great. Well, Danusha, thank you for being with us. We're in your hands. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Robert. Really fun to be here. And I just realized on time that it was probably good to find my reading glasses. So luckily they're right behind me. But here we go. I'm going to be reading mostly from a new manuscript. So I'm excited. And you're all my guinea pigs a little bit, therefore. But it'd be fun to read newer poems and see if I can find my way around this puppy. But here we go. I usually like to start with something short just to get us warmed up. And I'll start with Glass. It's the small things that haunt. Oranges because my mother used to peel them for me, slip the rough sections in my mouth. Luckies because of the wayward boy who lit my first, leaning against the railing of the pier. O Solo Mio wafts up from the downstairs apartment. Now it means all those summers. Can't they just turn it off? I walk through Queen Anne's Lace in late September down to the cove where I used to meet a man who was dying. That flower now added to my own vocabulary of loss. What doesn't, in time, enter grief's lexicon? When I think of our house after the fire, all I can see are pools of pink glass, once our ice cream bowls, melted on the ruins. Putting this next book together, I was struck by how much California is in it, which makes sense for me as a Californian, but just it's so interesting. However you grew up or spent most of your life, all those plants, all those birds are just part of your inner vocabulary. It's how you read life, right? The crows are back. It's fall. They're doing their thing, you know. Anyway, so noticing that. And that applies to this next poem, Barefoot. I learned the world through the bottoms of my feet, bare in the creeks of summer, stepping on pebbles, the squidge of moss between my toes. On hot asphalt, the hop and skip over cracks, feet already toughened by bramble, dirt, the prickly ground of pine needles. Calloused and ready to roam the rough halls of July, of August, of early September, through acres of blackberry and bristled fountain grass, the spiny clumps of cocklebur and foxtail, through clusters of quartz, agate, feldspar. Small black ants crawled over my toes. Fish nibbled at them in the skinny creek. It wasn't summer until I'd been bitten, ankles pocked with the raised bumps left by mosquitoes, flea bites from Toof Toof the cat, who liked to roam the field, then settle back on the shag rug, where I'd sink my toes into the plush pile before rambling down to the beach, the fine ground sand, cutting myself on loose shards of glass left by broken beer bottles, sharp-edged shells that dug into the fatted flesh above my instep as I skimmed for washed-up bits of abalone, oyster, clam, sidestepping the glutinous bodies of jellyfish, past crusted bulbs of kelp, their long tubed stems buzzing with flies. Sometimes the body of a dead seal, the peppered fin curling into itself in the heat. Back on the grassy slope, I'd marvel at how I could feel a gopher stir underground from yards away, that slight rumble in the earth. This was foot knowledge, heel knowledge, knowledge of soul and arch, that domed curve, vaulted nave, everything that entered there, sanctified, holy. Some of those creeks I waded in, I realize now were, well, some of that time in creeks was up in the San Lorenzo, coming down through the Santa Cruz Mountains. I lived up in Marin and Berkeley, but we'd, in the summer, come to the Santa Cruz Mountains near where I live now. And yeah, lots of gooey, yummy stuff in the creek for a kid. So I want to read. It's so fun to have new poems. I think every writer feels that way. Like your favorite things are the things you wrote last week, and everything else is crap or just kind of okay, you know. But then it's like having a favorite new child. It's terrible, but the new ones always seem more exciting. And this one is about having and not having a child. It's called Daughter. I always wanted a daughter, which is to say, I wanted a better self, flecked from my marrow, made flesh. I wanted this bone of my bones to move in the world, exceptional and unharmed. Not this world, but a world almost exactly unlike it. Same paved streets and street cafes, same slow unfurl of spring. Only in that world, the green of field and orchard is still wanton with winged things, their bellies powdered with the flowers' gold dust. Daughter, I say, and I mean a list of what ifs, a cacophony of sorrows. I imagine her tall, lithe as willows. When I say daughter, I mean a match, ready to strike herself against the world that isn't this one. I mean luck. I mean a river empty of drowning. I mean an arrow aimed at an unnamed star. Who said a daughter is a needle in the heart? I would take that needle, sew her a dress of yarrow and blood. In the world, not this one, I have a daughter. She is a long braid, a memory of fire. She goes before me, shining darkly into a city of gold, of salt, that I will never see. Thank you. I am so grateful, I should say, for the way that we are able to be together in these strange days. I don't get tired of it. I really just love that, yeah, we get to do this. It's a virtual embrace. And I really do. I mean, it's really carried me through so much of this time. And I think and hope it will continue to do this and be this for people who are, for various reasons, less able to be out and traveling around in the world. I think it's an amazing thing. So thank you for holding this space together. Yeah, love these spaces. All right. Who wants to hear about regret? I do. Okay, regret. I see the word, I should say, before I start this, I'm a little bit dyslexic. And so the headlines of the news are amazing. The headlines are already strange, but to me, it's a whole nother level because my mind reverses things, adds in new words, and does so much fancy stuff that I am always misreading things. So it's kind of funny. I'm a writer, but this is what I'm working with. So this came out of that experience of misreading. Regret. I see the word egret, but read instead regret. A trick of the mind, its reversals. One a white slash rising from the marsh, the other a stone strapped to the heart. The way I've carried all the would haves, all the ifs, each alternate exhausts. The egret wades in the dark water seeking fish. The heart, constancy. I doubt the egret has regrets. Hatch, fledge, breed, hunt, and besides, a lovely name that comes from French, aigrette, for brush, after the long feathers that stream down its back. How do its legs, bent reversed, move ahead? Who wouldn't want to walk like that? There are days I step outside my body, arise, fly over the field of my life, and glimpse not error, but river, rock, and oak, a wide expanse. Here and there a meadow, grass dotted with, could they be poppies? Some bright blurred orange flame. So here's to all the misreaders out there, all the mildly or very dyslexic folks. We have some little perks from it, I guess, some ways that we get to see the world that we might not have otherwise. Just see if I find a wild card I feel like reading. I'm just going to read a couple more. It's really been a pleasure to get to do this. It's my Jeopardy music usually kicks in. Okay, I'm going to read two more. And this one is called How Often One Death. And I don't know if I've really read this to anyone before, although it came out in Rhino magazine. How often one death carries another. Like when my painting teacher, Eduardo, died, and the cat he'd had for years succumbed the same month to the same rare ailment. Or how, when they buried my friend's grandfather in Japan, the pond full of koi he'd tended all his life sickened, turned belly up. Who or what is in our keeping? A house unoccupied quickly sinks into itself, turns earthward. Long married couples are known to give up the ghost within hours of each other. Think of the hum that holds the walls together. The roof high keeps the rot at bay a little longer. As surely we too are pinned here by others, whose presence urges ourselves to replicate our lives more single than we imagine. Even the woman I can't see, who lives in a studio on the other side of the wall, she washes a dish, and the water runs through the pipes between us like blood through the arteries of a single heart. And this last poem I'll read, I'm reading partly because it has a local connection. Down in Monterey, that you have the Montage Health that runs the hospital there. And they asked me to write a poem for a new facility to put on the wall of their new breast care center in the waiting room where people are waiting for results, to hear their results. I thought, I've never been asked to do this. But I took it on and it is up there now. Hopefully providing some kind of anchor in that space. But the art director did many wonderful things to bring the ocean and bring a lot of other elements into what can otherwise be a really cold, daunting kind of space. So anyway, here's the little poem that went up there. It's called Let Rain Be Rain. Let rain be rain. Let wind be wind. Let the small stone be the small stone. May the bird rest on its branch, the beetle in its burrow. May the pine tree lay down its needles, the rock rose its petals. It's early, or it's late. The answers to our questions lie hidden in acorn, oyster, the seagull's speckled egg. We've come this far already. Why not let breath be breath, salt be salt? How faithful the tide that has carried us, that carries us now out to sea and back. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Wonderful. Danusha, thank you. That was fantastic. You have an enchanting way to use words and bring them to us. I was intrigued by your mentioning being mildly dyslexic. I have a friend who is that way too, although perhaps more seriously. And he said he went into a church and there was a sign on the wall, "God is love." He read it as "dog is love." And that's pretty appropriate. Why not?
Totally legitimate. Yeah.
Why not? So, but I love that you talked about foot knowledge and you created this word, the squidge of moss under bare feet. I know exactly what you mean. I think all of us, the squidge of moss, and then the peppered fin of the dead seal curling into itself in the heat. That's such an incredible image with regard to daughter, a cacophony of sorrows, and an arrow aimed at a star. It takes us right to what you mean. And the egret rising, a white flash rising from the marsh, whereas regret is a dark, heavy stone. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And let rain be rain. That was a wonderful way to conclude. And I'll tell people I know who do go to the breast center for their care to look for your poem on the wall. That's really terrific. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to keep the magic rolling here. Our next poet is also, as I mentioned, like Danusha, a poet laureate, Prartho Sereno. She's written 4 prize-winning poetry collections, including Indian Rope Trick, Elephant Raga, Call from Paris, and her illustrated book, Causing a Stir, The Secret Lives and Loves of Kitchen Utensils, which is great. As I mentioned, Prartho was the poet laureate from Marin County, 2015 to 2017. She has her MFA from Syracuse University, which she received in 2013. She was a Radio Disney super teacher in 2005 and was a poet in the schools for 21 years. She and our fellow poet Jennifer Legier have a lot in common in that regard. She currently teaches online a course, The Poetic Pilgrimage, Poem Making as a Spiritual Practice, which is a wonderful thing. She holds over 4 years in an Indian ashram as her strongest creative influence, but she also credits her creativity to excursions into other art forms. As a counseling psychologist, a vegetarian cook, the mother of 2, meditation and yoga instructor at Cornell, a book and cover illustrator, and an amateur singer-songwriter, which is a wonderful set of things to do to nourish one's art making. In January of 2022, she was named Artist of the Month by the Point Reyes Dance Palace, which celebrated her with a virtual show, Poems and Paint in Conversation, pairing Prartho's watercolor paintings with recitations of simpatico poems. And that's a wonderful thing. You should go onto her website and also see her postings on social media. She's a wonderful painter too. So Prartho, we're glad to have you with us. Thank you for being here, and it's over to you. Thank you.
Oh, good. Good. I'm unmuted. Thank you so much for creating this, and Danusha for your amazing poems that I'm still a little bit off the ground, so I hope that's a good thing when I read. We'll see. And thank everybody for coming on a Sunday afternoon on a beautiful day. And so I am going to I also am mainly reading from my most recent collection, which has not been shared hardly at all. And I'm very happy to be doing that again, just like Danusha. It feels like it kind of its first birth is to read them to other people. But I am going to start with, I'm going to probably lace in a few, and I will start with some that I've memorized from previous collections, because I like to be able to just look straight out for a few of these. So the first one I'm going to open with is, sometimes I think it's my favorite poem I've ever written. I wrote it when I was at Syracuse University, and I was confronted with academia in a way that surprised me. I was in my 60s. And so it is called Magdalene Faces the Tribunal of Quantifiable Evidence and Measurable Outcomes. It's all in her voice. It is possible, I suppose, that he hypnotized us, and we only imagined ourselves in those silent depths, that he tricked our minds into peace, our bodies into ease, created the illusion that we were whole. And perhaps it only seemed as if we were loved with abandon. He smelled like rain, and his voice made my bones hum like 1,000 dulcimers. Yes, it was probably just an imaginary wind that brought us to his feet and then blew us back into lives that are now somehow on fire. And I suppose one could make the case that he faked the whole thing, that he was just like the rest of us, tiny as a grain of rice in a bubbling kettle of stars. He may have only brought laughter to our days and dancing to our feet, only made it seem a blessing to be alive. No, sirs, I have nothing to show. None of us got rich or made ourselves a name, but sometimes I find my pillow is wet when I wake in the night and think of him.
Mm.
So it's kind of my Ars Poetica as well, I think. The next one, now the rest, for the most part, well, I'll weave in a few others that I can just look straight out for, but this one is from my new collection called Starfall in the Temple being the great expanse. Elephant. From the rickshaw in Mumbai, we gasped when we saw her, haphazardly heaped with hay bales, nearly double her size, dripping in afternoon light. Her driver rocked on the rippling gray sea of her, a skinny turbaned silhouette against the gold. I think I rode an elephant once, or was it only a dream? Climbing the ladder with my two girls, sitting astride her broad carpeted back. I can still feel her pitching beneath us as we clung to the braided fringe and she bumbled along her frayed and dusty track. But mostly I remember the top of her head, a few hairs rising from between fluid ears, a mostly bald dome, vulnerable, like an elder who's given her all, surrendered now. I'll go where you lead. I'll rest in your shade. I'll carry what you give. 20th anniversary. Could this be the love poem where I get to walk through the bakery door again and you get to hope I'm the one you've been writing to for weeks? Isn't that the pewter sky of January, the pungence of coffee wafting up from chipped white diner mugs? The downtown trees have seen it all. They go on with their town square gossips. The pigeons show more interest, tuned as they are to crumble of muffin and scone. But even they don't notice our ghostly selves, hunched outside to eavesdrop on the scene, looking in through steamed up windows. Your eyes are beautiful, you say. I'd like to see you again, but not out loud. You wait to go home and write it in a letter. The next one is a little ditty that I wrote during the lockdown, and I think it reflects that. A day. You open the day and look, a sack of what you've always wanted has been dropped at your door. sunlit hours with lizards crawling through them, the frog pond's improvisational chorus of croak and plop. Redwoods inch up towards tomorrow, and the stream where you decide to rest, though diminished in dry season, gurgles ever so faintly on. So this collection has quite a few poems that are titled with complex scientific terms, which I'm interested in what science does because it's all of the human experience and brain that's making it. And then somehow I take that and just sift it through my life. So it's not particularly recognizable. And I am also dyslexic, by the way. And so, I read very slowly and I have my own weird ways of connecting. So this one is called Relative Velocity. I don't have forever, my friend who was in need of a lover told God, like you do. Her garden was overgrown, breakfast nook empty, feet interminably cold. That's the way it is down here, where leaf blowers cough up dust devils and possums ginger forth at dusk to stare in with troubled pink eyes. In these parts, it's one perplexing whirl from this to that. She didn't need money, she said, or a place to rest her head. She had enough of just about everything. But time was something else. And though she reasoned that the eternal didn't have much use for it, time was the only train in her town. So she boarded the milk run and sent up her plea, and just like that, a good-looking fisherman blew into the yard sale. No projects of his own, as specified, just an easy smile, warm feet, and an almost unearthly eagerness to get things done. And this next one is similar. It is called Event Horizons, which is, of course, the little place at the edge of a black hole where it's over. You're not going anywhere but in. Event Horizons. A man now, my grandson, has moved in downstairs where he wrestles with the angels of amazement and doubt. Our shadows bow to one another as he leaves to drive people to airport or city jobs. I want to tell him things, but the guardians of pre-dawn won't let it whisper pass at this hour, and I'm asleep again before he comes home. I want to tell him things, but the words have gotten snagged in the brain's frayed cogs. The name, for example, for the lightness that can blow through a heart, lift it from the body and sail it around the world. I want to tell him too, how the unexpected has a thing for us, how she waits among the pots and pans in wait for our little lives to whistle by. And how nobody ever really believes they're old. One day, you and your little old lady sweetheart will make jokes about your slipping disguises over scrambled eggs and toast. And this is one I used to share with students. So I was a poet in the schools for 21 years, which was an incredible time. My teachers were all mainly in third grade and first grade and like that. And they are my real poetry teachers. But anyway, this one I created for them, but I want to share it with you. It's called The Mystery School of Rhyme. Tell me it ain't monumental. Tell me it's just accidental. Rapture, capture, woo, tune, ease and trees and breeze, try, cry, lie, die, all the notes on the road to why. Tell me you're not stoked when your words come unchoked, curl and unfurl, swirl and twirl like the tail of a squirrel, like the stories of a girl. Did you see her as she fell into that sacred spell? That spell made of rhymes, that spell so sublime, it throws you out of time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is where heaven begins to leaven. Understand what I'm saying? Listen to this rain and tell me it's not praying. Now I'm wondering, I guess I will. I'm going to do the title poem from Indian Rope Trick because I decided I'd give one poem from each of my collections that I know by heart. So The Indian rope trick, just to give a little background, is, oh, there she goes, Diane Frank, my publisher. Thank you, Diane. So, yes. And so the Indian rope trick is an actual fabled trick that there's actually been calls out to see if anyone can really reproduce this trick, although people seem to believe it was done. And it is a trick where a rope is thrown into the air, it stays vertical, someone climbs the rope, and at the top they disappear. So that's the title, and this is the title poem. Indian rope trick. It's the mystery's favorite trick, weaving the intricate rope of someone's life and then lifting it for them to climb and somewhere near the top disappear. 2 weeks ago, my brother said he'd shot 9 holes. Pain was lousy, he said, but went on to practice one-liners he was concocting for his meeting with the maker. I'm not afraid to die, he said, with that strange wonder he's had since the diagnosis. But this time, he added that he had no regrets, none worth counting anyway. I'd taken my phone with me on my walk to the mountain so I could talk to him among the ravens and hawks. He'd had a wonderful life, he said, which caused the rope of it to rise and grow taut before us so we could see it there in all its color. There in his yellow cowboy pajamas with his champion Alaskan yo-yo. There in the red glow of his cherry bomb days. There in the stolen tractor on a joyride over the golf club greens. And look, now he's doing figure eights on his forklift in the basement of Kodak. And now he's blasting bottle rocket style to international VP. See him there in Paris and Philly. See him on adrift on the tranquil waters of South Carolina seas. We followed that rope right up through the clouds. Uh-oh, I skipped a verse, that's why. I couldn't have asked for more, he said. And his exhale filled the valley. So the hawks were lifted up on the rising air. And we said goodbye. And a couple more. This is the title poem, a little shorter, from the new collection. Starfall in the Temple. When sadness sat at my table last night, I saw that he was beautiful, just like my friend told me he was, the friend who called last week to tell me she was dying. Beautiful sadness, windows smudged with steam, that ceaseless watercourse way, the vanishing of all who agree to radiate light, melancholy night filled with rain. And I'm at the stage in my life where I'm doing a little accounting of the life. This is called Autumn Accounts. They say it's never too late. What with the late president's skydive for his 90th and the 100-year-old water skier who waved from my fridge till his photo yellowed and frayed. But it probably is too late to train in rocket science or concert piano. Too late to free climb Half Dome or take up oral surgery. And surely it's too late to die young. Still, there may be time to enter the longing and give ourselves to what we become when we turn in its light. Pitcher of twilight, angel of glass, a grasshopper the size of a young boy's heart, a labyrinth of stones like the ones you discovered in the hills, that slow walk to nowhere, the very same nowhere we were getting to so fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Prartho. That was beautiful. Again, a magical use of words, enchanted words. Melancholy life filled with rain. And you just talked about in autumn accounting, it's too late for a lot of things, but not too late to enter the longing and turn ourselves into what that longing would have us be. That's beautiful. And I was struck by your use of the science terminology, relative velocity and event horizon, because there's a double meaning. If you know what relative velocity means, then the poem takes on a deeper meaning. It's wonderful. It's like a well-written caption under a photograph. It pairs well and it takes you deeper. Event horizon, over scrambled eggs and toast. I mean, you know, you're on that. You're there. You can't stop. You can't go back. And then your pillow being wet when you wake up in the night. That was a beautiful line with tears. And the pewter sky of January, and the thoughts that the man had, which he couldn't say out loud, but he could in a letter. Just beautiful. And then the elephant, it's I know the top of an elephant being vulnerable like an elder. That was wonderful. So thank you for that was beautiful. Thank you. And we know where to get some more from your books. And thank you for sharing from your books with us. Well, this has been this is quite an afternoon, folks, and it's so, I find, energizing and uplifting